you're capable of more. Meanwhile, if Daisy got a C minus, it was time to celebrate with balloons and cake. Anyway, I knew going into Daisy's wedding that I wouldn't be the center of attention. Obviously it was her wedding, and I was content to simply be a supportive sibling, smile for photos, and get through the day without any unneeded drama. But what I didn't expect, and couldn't have predicted, was how far they would go to ensure I knew where I stood in this family. The warning symptoms appeared early on. First, I discovered that I wasn't at the wedding party. Fine, whatever. Not everyone has their siblings as bridesmaids or groomsmen. Then I discovered that Daisy's childhood best friend, a co-worker, and her fiancé's cousin's girlfriend were at the wedding party. Okay. It stung a little, but hey, maybe she simply wanted to keep things fresh. Then came the seating chart. Now, I wasn't expecting to be at the head table. Obviously, that is for the couple and their bridal party. But I believed I'd at least be sat with our family, with whom I've shared DNA and holidays for my entire life. Nope. When I got to the venue and took up my place card, I saw something strange. My name was not with my parents, aunts, or cousins. No, my card was not in the seating chart at all. I had to ask someone where I should sit. A wedding planner reviewed the list, and then gave me the tightest, most awkward smile I've ever seen. "Oh, Albert, you're right here," she pointed. I glanced, and that is when I noticed it. My seat was not in the vast ballroom where the chandeliers glowed and the nicely adorned tables filled the room. It was outside the ballroom. As in the corridor, near the coat rack. At first I laughed. I assumed there had to be some error. Like maybe they ran out of chairs and needed to rearrange some stuff. But no. That was my allotted seat. A lonely little table at the entryway, just myself and the slight odor of mothballs on people's winter coats. I turned to face the wedding planner, still grinning like a fool since my brain couldn't grasp what was going on. "You're kidding, right?" She was visibly uncomfortable. "I'm really sorry, but this is where you've been assigned." Assigned. Like a prisoner receiving their cell block number. I wasn't even mad yet. I was too busy being perplexed. So, was this a prank? Is there some odd wedding tradition I've never heard of? I needed answers and knew just who to ask. I spotted Daisy in the bridal room, basking in the warmth of being the bride, surrounded by her friends and our mother, who was busy admiring her attire. She spotted me coming and gave me the most phony smile in the world. "Oh hey, you made it," I said, holding up my place card. "Yeah, quick question. Why isn't my seat in the reception hall?" She blinked and giggled. I actually giggled. "Oh, that. Yeah, we had to move a few things around at the last minute." "Uh-huh. And I just so happened to be the one who got moved to the hallway?" Daisy shrugged, as if it were no great thing. "I mean, yeah. We had to prioritize close family at the main tables." I blinked. I am close family. My mother, who had been pretending not to listen, interrupted with a sugary sweet voice. "Now Albert, don't make a scene. It's Daisy's special day." "I'm not making a scene. I'm asking why I'm literally sitting with the Coates." And then, oh then, Daisy said the words that officially made this the worst wedding I've ever attended. "Well, you kind of aren't really immediate family anymore." I stared at her, trying to figure out what that even meant. "Excuse me?" She shrugged again, adjusting her veil, as if the conversation was boring her. "You moved out years ago. You don't come around that often. And you're not married or anything. It's just different now." I'm not even sure how to express the sensation that sank in my chest at that moment. It wasn't all anger. It was something heavier. Something colder. I was no longer part of the immediate family since I had the chutzpah to grow up and live my own life. Because I was not married. Before I could say anything, another voice interrupted. And that's when I noticed her. Daisy's mother-in-law. I hadn't interacted with her much before that day, but the moment she stepped in, I realized she was the type of person who enjoyed drama, thrived on it, and lived to stir the pot. She smirked as she stared at me. "Oh, you're Albert. I was wondering who that seat belonged to." I mustered a stiff smile. "Yep, that's me. The sibling who apparently doesn't count." Daisy's mother-in-law giggled and examined me. Her expression mockingly sympathetic. "Well, you know how weddings are. Only the most important people get the best spots." That's when something clicked. This was not only Daisy's doing. Her new mother-in-law was enjoying it. Suddenly everything made sense. This was not a seating mistake. This was not a horrible plan. This was deliberate. And when I discovered it, something inside me changed. I wasn't about to sit through this wedding silently. And I wasn't about to leave without making a statement. I took a slow, deep inhale, clenching my fingers around the place card that remained in my grasp. All right, if this is how they want to play it, that's okay. But they overlooked one thing. I grew up with Daisy. I knew her secrets. I knew what she said behind people's backs. And most crucially, I knew she despised her new mother-in-law. Oh, she smiled and pretended to be kind. But behind closed doors, it was a different story. And right now, I had an audience. I turned to Daisy's mother-in-law and put on my best phony empathetic face. You know, it's funny. Just the other day, Daisy was so worried about seating arrangements. Daisy, who had been staring at her nails with boredom, suddenly straightened. Mil lifted her eyebrow. Oh? I nodded and kept my voice casual. Yeah, she was stressed. Kept saying she really didn't want certain people sitting too close to the head table. I let the words linger before leaning in slightly, as if I were telling Mil a tasty little secret. Something about not wanting her wedding photos ruined by, what was it, Daisy? I turned to her, tilting my head. Oh right, by someone's tacky dress. A silence descended over the little group. Mil's sneer faded in an instant. Excuse me? Daisy's face had lost its color. Albert. But I wasn't finished. Oh, and remember how you were so worried about speeches? You were really stressed about what certain people would say? I gave Emil a sharp glance. I believe your exact words were, if she gives a speech, I swear to God I'll lose my mind. She's so embarrassing. She'll probably try to make the whole thing about herself. Daisy's expression clouded. Daisy made a choked moan and reached for my arm. Can I talk to you for a second? I backed aside, seeming to be bewildered. Why? I thought we were having a family conversation. Since I'm not an immediate family member, I figured I'd at least try to get involved somehow. Mil looked at Daisy, her eyes narrowing. Is that true? Daisy let out a hesitant giggle and shook her head. No, of course not. Albert is just... Oh, and don't forget the bachelorette party. I gasped and smacked my forehead. Silly me. How could I not mention that? I turned back to Mil. You know, the one where Daisy spent half the night complaining about you. Said she was counting down the days until she didn't have to fake nice anymore. Said she was only tolerating you because she didn't want to start her marriage off with drama. That was it. That was the kill shot. Daisy's mouth dropped open. My mother, who had been standing uncomfortably to the side, appeared horrified. My father, who had been entirely unaware up to this point, took a step back, as if he wanted to pretend he wasn't involved. Daisy's companions, the bridesmaids, began murmuring and exchanging wide-eyed glances. Daisy, meanwhile, appeared to be poised to burst into flames. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. And then Mil turned against her. You ungrateful little brat! I had to bite my tongue to keep from smiling, since this was going to be good. You think you can just use me? Mil's tone was sharp and angry. After everything I've done for you? The money I put into this wedding? The favors I pulled? She waved enthusiastically toward the ballroom, her neatly manicured nails gleaming under the chandelier lights. And this whole time, you've been running your mouth behind my back? Daisy stammered. I didn't. Mil turned to my parents. You knew about this? You raised her to be this kind of snake? My mother looked like she was about to faint. Of course not. Daisy would never. Oh, don't even try, I interrupted, shaking my head. You absolutely knew. You just didn't care. I gave a phony sigh. I mean, you did raise her to think she's the most important person in the world. Kinda makes sense she'd start treating everyone else like garbage, huh? Mom's face contorted in rage. Albert, stop it. Why? I inquired, crossing my arms. Because I'm causing a scene? Huh. Funny how that only matters when I'm the one speaking up. Didn't seem to be a problem when Daisy literally shoved me out of the reception. By this point, everyone was staring. The whispers had become louder. Guests turned their heads and spoke amongst themselves. Even the groom, who had been missing the entire time, finally came over, his brow wrinkled. What's going on? Mil rounded on him next. What's going on is that your wife is a backstabbing little brat who's been insulting my family this whole time. The groom blinked. Wait, what? Mill pointed a finger at Daisy, who appeared to want the ground to swallow her whole. She's been running her mouth about me for months, complaining about my dress, my speech, my presence. Saying she's only putting up with me until she doesn't have to anymore. The groom gently turned to face Daisy. Did you actually say that? Daisy shook her head angrily. No, I mean, well, not like that. Mil scoffed. Oh, not like that? Oh, please. And here I was thinking you actually cared about this family. And with that, it was officially a war zone. Mill and Daisy were snapping at each other. My mother tried to calm everyone down, but it wasn't working. My father appeared miserable, as if he wanted to walk into the water. The groom was still standing there, looking as if he had been smacked in the face with a frying pan. Meanwhile, I stood there, watching the devastation unfold, sipping champagne like I was at a Broadway show. And to be honest, it was lovely. But the finest part? The ultimate cherry on top? I wasn't finished yet. Daisy's voice rose in tone, and her hands shook as she turned to face her new husband. You believe her over me? She exclaimed, waving violently in my direction. Her spouse, to his credit, was still attempting to digest everything. His jaw was clenched, his look alternating between disbelief and humiliation as people stared openly at them. I don't even know what to say, Daisy, he mumbled, massaging his forehead. I mean, did you say that stuff? Daisy scoffed. It was taken out of context. I raised an eyebrow. Out of context? Oh right, that classic excuse. I put on my best mocking tone. Oh no, I was just venting, I exclaimed, inserting air quotes. Oh no, I didn't mean it that way. My voice went flat. Give it up, Daisy. You got caught. And let's be honest, if I didn't say anything you still wouldn't have cared. Mil, furious, turned to my parents. And you're just okay with this? Mom's mouth expanded and closed like a fish. She was frantic to say something that would help the situation. We don't condone. Oh, cut it, I replied, waving my hand. You absolutely knew she felt this way, and you still let her pretend to be the perfect daughter-in-law. I clicked my tongue. Guess it's all about keeping up appearances, huh? Daisy yelled. You're ruining my wedding, Albert. I took a dramatic look around. Oh, I'm ruining it? Sorry, I didn't realize I was the one treating family members like dirt and trash-talking the mother of the groom. I returned my attention to the guests, many of whom were looking with wide eyes. What do you guys think? Who's really to blame here? A few people averted their gaze, unwilling to get involved. But one of Daisy's bridesmaids whispered something to the woman next to her. And that woman laughed, which made Daisy even upset. You think this is funny? She yelled, whipping at them. The bridesmaid's lips twitched. I mean, kind of. Oh, this was getting better. Daisy's hands tightened into fists. But before she could explode again, I decided to end things. Because frankly, I was bored. I let out a big sigh and shook my head. Well, this has been lovely. Really just a fantastic experience. But I think it's time for me to go. Daisy scoffed and threw up her hands. Fine, go. I grinned. Oh, don't worry. I will. Then I turned to face the gift table, scrutinizing the pile of expensive-looking goods heaped near the front. And there it was. My gift. The one I'd spent weeks choosing. The one that had required actual labor, thought, and, most significantly, money. Daisy followed my gaze and her eyes grew large. Albert, no. I walked over, whistling to myself as I picked up the gift from the table. Daisy's jaw fell. Are you seriously taking it back? I gave her a deadpan expression. Why would I leave it? Apparently I'm not real family, right? I gave a phony gasp. Oh my God, what if I accidentally contaminated it with my servant germs? I held my chest tightly. Wouldn't want to taint your precious married life? Daisy's face became a deadly shade of red. You're such a child. I shrugged and held the package under one arm. Maybe. But at least I'm not a fake, lying, two-faced brat who pretends to be sweet while talking bad about people behind their backs. I turned to face Mil, who was still furious. Hey Mel, good luck with this one. I give it a year. Mil actually laughed. Daisy shrieked. I turned on my heel and moved for the exit. The tension behind me so thick it could be sliced with a knife. Guests were whispering. The music had ceased entirely. The atmosphere had entirely changed from joyous to full-fledged disaster, and I loved it. As I approached the door, I halted to glance back at the tumultuous scene behind me. Daisy was still arguing with Emil. My parents seemed to want to disappear into the floor. The groom was simply standing there, as if he were evaluating his entire life. And me? I gave a small wave, a smug smirk pulling on my lips. Enjoy your perfect wedding, sis. Then I walked out. I didn't look back after leaving that disastrous wedding. I did not need to. I already knew the damage had been done, and it was more pleasurable than I could have hoped. When those doors closed behind me, I exhaled slowly and adjusted the weight of the wedding gift under my arm. Petty? Maybe. Satisfying? Absolutely. I drove home in solitude, letting the darkness settle around me and repeating every aspect of what had happened. My sister is shrieking. My mother's terrified expression. My father's quiet. Mil is absolutely enraged. It was all gold. But I was aware that the damage was only beginning. And I was correct. The next morning my phone was filled with calls, texts, and missed voicemails. It was as if my entire family had suddenly realized that I existed. My mother had left 7 voicemails, her tone alternating between frantic pleading and extreme wrath. Albert, what were you thinking? You've humiliated your sister on the biggest day of her life. Call me back now. Albert, honey, please. We can talk about this. Just come over. Let's work this out. That was the most immature, selfish thing I have ever seen. I hope you're happy. I hope you enjoyed destroying your sister's wedding. Oh, I did, Mother. I honestly, truly did. But what about my sister's messages? Even better. It's over between us. How could you do this? You ruined everything. I can't even look at my wedding photos because of you. You took back your gift. Are you serious? What kind of person does that? I hate you. I really, really hate you. I smiled as I scrolled through them, sipping my coffee. If Daisy thought a few furious texts would make me feel horrible, she didn't know me very well. But what actually drew my attention? My dad sent me a text. Unlike my mother and sister, he did not hurl insults or demand an apology. His texts were short, simple. Call me when you have a moment. I hesitated before calling his number. Dad was not the sort to become embroiled in drama. Usually, he let my mother and Daisy run the show while he remained in the background. The fact that he was reaching out at all indicated that something serious was going on. He picked up after the second ring. Albert, Dad replied. After a long interval he sighed. Why would you do this? I snorted. Wasn't my fault. They lit the fuse. He let out another sigh, and for a brief time I assumed he was preparing to reprimand me. Instead, he chuckled softly, almost exhausted. Yeah, they kind of did. This caught me by surprise. Wait, you agree with me? I didn't say that, he said, but his tone changed, quieter. But I saw what happened, and I saw how your mother and sister treated you. It wasn't right. I slumped back in my chair. So what? You're the only one not blaming me? Another pause. Not the only one. It turns out that the wedding did not simply return to normal once I left. The damage I had caused had been irrevocable. Mill had totally lost it when I exposed Daisy. She had loudly chastised her in front of everyone, demanding to know whether what I stated was true. Daisy, being Daisy, panicked. Attempted to lie. I tried to play innocent. However, it appears that Mill had previously realized something was wrong with her. My small revelation. It had been the last straw. By the end of the event, Mill had almost completely abandoned Daisy. What about the groom? I'm very furious. Apparently he thought Daisy and his mother had a terrific relationship. He had no idea Daisy had been berating her behind her back. Finding out in front of everyone? Yeah, not ideal for a brand new marriage. According to my father, he and Daisy had a big disagreement that night. A big one. In the maybe we should rethink this whole marriage category. And what about my parents? Oh, they got caught in the middle of it. My mother had attempted to conduct damage control, but MIL was not having it. She criticized my mother for raising a spoiled child and made it clear that she no longer wanted Daisy to be around her family. The complete and comprehensive fallout. So, what's the situation now? I inquired, truly interested. Dad exhaled again. Daisy is, well, she's not handling it well. I rolled my eyes. Shocker. She's blaming you for everything. She thinks if you hadn't said anything, none of this would have happened. I laughed. Oh, of course she does. God forbid she actually takes responsibility for her own actions. Dad remained silent for a moment. Then he stated, she wants you to apologize. I literally choked on my coffee. Apologize? She thinks it's the only way to fix things, he said. She thinks if you just take the blame, maybe Mill will forgive her, and things can go back to normal. I couldn't stop laughing. Yeah, that's not happening. I figured, Dad began, then added in a softer voice. I don't think you should anyway. That actually gave me pause. Wait. Seriously? I told you, Albert, I witnessed what happened. In all honesty, perhaps it's time someone called her out. That meant more to me than I cared to acknowledge. So what happens now? I asked. Dad exhaled again. Your mother is still attempting to reconcile with her mother-in-law, but I doubt it will be successful. MIL is outraged. The groom. He's barely talking to Daisy. And Daisy. He hesitated. Well, she's a disaster. Good. I didn't say it aloud, but I wasn't going to lie to myself about my feelings.